Geek Vibes Live is rated G for geek.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another awesome episode of Geek Vibes Live interview. Now, for today's interview, I'm your host, Tia Fabi, and I have an amazing co-host with me today, Jawan. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm really excited for this interview, and I am truly thankful that you allowed me to tag along with you.
Absolutely. And the interview that Jawan is referring to is that we are going to be interviewing the actual showrunners for the DC Universe app show Harley Quinn, Justin Halpern, and Patrick Schumacher. They, of course, will be joining us in probably about 10 minutes, and it is super exciting because if you haven't watched the first season of Harley Quinn, it's an animated series. It's amazing. You need to definitely catch up on that because the second season is coming out soon.
All right, Patrick and Justin, you guys are on.
Hi. Hey.
Hey guys.
Hello.
This is Tia from Geek Vibes Nation, and I'm here with my co-host, Jawan. How are you guys doing today?
All right. How are you?
Good.
Awesome. Before you guys got on, we were just gushing about Harley Quinn. Congratulations on the second season. This is just such an amazing experience for me who grew up on Batman the Animated Series, and I just have to start off right away with asking, what made the two of you want to work on this show that centered around Harley Quinn?
Well, this is Pat. I've been a, almost lifelong comic book fan, probably as long as I could read, and I was sort of the perfect age when Harley showed up on BTAS, and have since really followed her adventures pretty closely in print. And then obviously with, Margot's performance in Suicide Squad and her being such a breakout character in that show, it sort of demonstrated that, Harley could exist outside of, a classic, either comic book or what some, might perceive as like a youth-oriented television program. I don't, with Batman the Animated Series, but some do. But anyways, I thought that it became very clear that this character could thrive in sort of a very adult context, like an adults only context. And so back in like 2016, we got a call. It was a very call, I'll say. From Susan Rovner at Warner Brothers, who at the time was the head of scripted development. Now she's co-president, and she called us out of the blue and was like, "What do you guys think about, pitching on a hyper-serialized, R-rated Harley Quinn animated series?" And it just was like, I think it was just music to our ears. There was no hesitation whatsoever about, whether or not we were going to try and tackle it. And so, we jumped into it in 2016, came up with a pitch for the first season, and pretty much carried it through, very loose beats of a first season, and why the show would work, and her relationship with Ivy and what that would look like. And that was very close to like what ended up on screen. We always used Ferris Bueller and Cameron Fry as sort of the analog or the comp for Harley and Ivy's relationship as a shorthand, that people always seem to get. And that was going to be a real focus for us in the show in the first season and beyond. And yeah, it was just kind of a no-brainer. And then we ended up taking a break from it to run another DC show called Powerless that was on NBC in 2016 or in 2017, and then once that was done, we were able to refocus our efforts, and then serendipitously, DC Universe was sort of starting up and looking for content because they were going to launch in September of 2018, and they were like, we'll pick it up for like 2 seasons, essentially, for 26 episodes, if you guys just bring it here and don't take it out anywhere else. And we were like, yeah, that's good. We'll do that. And yeah, so that was sort of the origin of it.
That's so cool. That right away it was kind of letting you guys know you're going to do these 2 seasons, and I'm really happy, by the way, that you brought up the relationship between Harley and Ivy, because it's such a centerpiece to the first season. And I'll ask you, Justin, from the end, I don't know if you could tell us anything, but from the trailer, it looks like we may be exploring more of Harley and Ivy's relationship. Do we ever really get to that point, or is it kind of tiptoeing around the subject?
No, we do not tiptoe. We get to it. It takes kind of we get to it mostly in, I would say, the back half of the season. It becomes really the focus of the back half of the season. I think, the first season was about Harley figuring out who she was when she wasn't the Joker's girlfriend. And so we didn't want to toss her into another relationship right away because that muddies that self-discovery. But once we ended the first season, we were like, okay, what themes do we want to hit? And I think that idea of once you are a, functioning human being who's not just like tied to somebody else, you start to think about like, what do I want? And that's, I think, a scary question because it has a lot of different potential answers. And so that's what we wanted to do with Harley, is for her to figure out what does she want, right? And then because, the show is obviously really wacky and batshit crazy, but we do try to spend a lot of time emotionally grounding things. And so just like the first season, we did a breakup story, but we wanted to make sure it was a messy breakup story because most breakups are messy. We wanted to do a story about, what happens when you have feelings for your best friend, but both of you are kind of like fucked up people. What happens? And it's messy. And so I would say we go right at it. There's no tiptoeing around it. I would almost venture to say our version of Harley and Ivy goes further maybe than any other version. But I'll let people yell at me and tell me I'm wrong. So I want to ask both of you, because it was very interesting, Patrick, with you saying that it was kind of brought to you with the idea of it being rated R, because I was definitely going to ask you guys how hard was it to sell that, because Margot Robbie talks about all the time how hard it was to sell Birds of Prey as rated R, but she definitely answered that. So my question to the both of you actually will be, how much ended up on the cutting room floor as far as what you guys could kind of really get away with? How much of that was you guys kind of saying, no, I think that's maybe too much, and how much of it was them kind of saying, yeah, no, you can't put that in there?
Oh yeah, I mean, we definitely always had a conversation about it. It was never a hard no about anything. I think the lengthiest conversation was probably about how we portrayed Commissioner Gordon. Because we definitely go into sort of downright pathetic territory with him at times, and I think the goal is generally to portray heroic characters from the canon as as heroic as they are in in their places of origin, that being like the print versions of the characters, and Gordon was kind of a departure from that, but it was just so big of an opportunity for us to go into this sort of PTSD'd out, beleaguered cop who, every day of his life is going into David Fincher's Seven, and that would really torture a man and break a man. And, that contrasted with his sort of younger brotherly love for Batman. And when I say younger brother, I mean sort of the way that a younger brother aspires to be his older brother, even though Gordon's probably older than Batman. But that was a pretty lengthy conversation. And then by the end of it, I think everyone saw that, the show was testing well, and the audiences were really relishing what we're doing with Gordon. And so they were like, okay, you know what? It's, we're not like completely betraying the character, so you guys can do it. And then periodically throughout the season, we would get like notes here or there about like maybe you've gone like a little too far. But for the most part, it was a pretty smooth process, especially once we had gone through some like screen tests and seen, sort of people who call themselves, hardcore DC fans, finding all of this just fine, and a fitting part of the multiverse, let's say. So yeah, we got away with a lot.
Yeah, I will definitely say what kind of made me go wow was the episode where a name was being thrown at Wonder Woman. That was the moment where I was like, oh, this is the hardest form of art that this show could be, and I love it. Because it just wasn't afraid at any point to really just go there. And to what you were saying about Gordon, I loved it because it was a side of Gordon we've never really seen. And I kind of felt a realism to it, to where it's like, there's no way any human being goes through as much crap as Gordon does. It doesn't at some point kind of start to crack. And I kind of feel like that was very realistic to kind of have a commissioner who kind of just feels like I've kind of in some areas just had it, and I loved it, and I loved the idea of him being a super Batman fan. I'm a super Batman fan, so I could relate to it. So I was just really glad what you guys did, and I would call myself a hardcore DC fan. And I was telling Tia at the top of the show, one thing you guys did that I think needs to be talked about more is how accurate everyone felt. And even some characters like King Shark, you kind of making King Shark somewhat comic. I still felt like it was King Shark. There were moments to where he was like, I'll bite this guy's head off. Like, that was King Shark. But more specifically, I want to talk to you guys about Poison Ivy. And the biggest reason why I wanted to highlight Poison Ivy was because the biggest thing I think people forget is she's not necessarily a villain. Poison Ivy's biggest thing is she wants to protect her green. And I think you guys hit that on the head with kind of portraying the idea of, like, Poison Ivy would be okay, like, just being with her green and being left alone. Like, she's not like, I'm going to just randomly go rob a bank or anything like that. She kind of just wants to protect her green, but there is a side of Poison Ivy that doesn't mind getting in a little bit of chaos with Harley Quinn. Can you guys speak to how accurate you felt as though you guys portrayed Poison Ivy?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it really came from, we had this idea that, Pat had always said, Harley is Ferris Bueller and Ivy is Cameron Fry. And then I think when Lake Bell came aboard to do Poison Ivy, Lake is just such a talented comedic actress, and she really like brings a certain voice to the show and to Poison Ivy. And she just had this really, like, she took the take that we had, which was that Ivy's kind of like over people, and she just brought this like really dry sense of humor, this like, I'm just fucking over everything kind of vibe that felt like a little Daria to us, a great way. And I think Lake really helped us write to that character and figure out exactly who that character was, which is like someone that has like social anxieties, that doesn't like people, but is open to the idea of maybe someday liking a few people. And I think that it was important for us to keep the core of that in Poison Ivy. Where we started to like drift away from other versions of it is, you know, like I think some other versions of Poison Ivy have her as much more of like a seductress and a little breathier. And I think we wanted to play her instead as just someone who couldn't give two shits about any human beings at all, except for Harley Quinn. And what that's like when a real, true introvert is best friends with, like, the most extroverted person in the world.
Yeah, I absolutely loved where you guys took Poison Ivy, because it really isn't like anything I've personally seen. As you said, Poison Ivy is always portrayed more as a seductress, a femme fatale, and to see her kind of just, like, even her plant is dissing her at some point, and that was really just hilarious to me. But two characters that I absolutely just loved, and it was a combination of the animation, the writing, the storyline, and the voice actors. And that, of course, is Kaley Cuoco as Harley and Alan Tudyk as the Joker. Patrick, I'll ask you, I mean, were these two voice, choices your first choices? How did the process kind of go getting these two stars to voice probably one of the most iconic couple in comic book history?
It was, different for each actor. I can start with Alan. He was an actor with whom, we had the honor of working with on Powerless. That was the first time I had met Alan. And, I got to see firsthand, what his range was, knew that he had done a decent amount of voice work prior to this. And it always felt kind of like a no-brainer. Basically, we approached him to do it. He sent in essentially an audition, and once we heard it, it was like, well, okay, yeah, we can stop. We can stop looking now. And then with Kaley, it's funny, that was her involvement was almost as serendipitous as the studio just saying to us, here's an R-rated serialized animated Harley Quinn show. Do you guys want to do it? Because Kaley, we got a call from the studio saying, Kaley was coming off of Big Bang Theory in their final season, and, she had heard about the project, had read the pilot script, which had been already written at the time, and was really enthusiastic about talking to us about potentially playing Harley. And we sat down with her for a couple hours over at her office on the Warner Brothers lot, where our offices are in the same building, actually. So her enthusiasm was just so infectious, and it was clear that she wanted that she got the character, that she completely understood that what we were trying to do, and also that she was just so eager to do this kind of like insane departure from, what she had been doing for the last 12 years. So we got her in the booth and recorded, several episodes, and, we're pretty happy with it. But obviously, her take on the character is is different than what you've seen in the past. And so there were some of us that were more of like the Harley purists that certainly like had our doubts, let's say. I mean, I was one of those people, and I can say now resoundingly that I was just objectively wrong, and that her approach is every bit as much in the spirit of the character as Tara Strong and others, and also it was a process in fine tuning the Harley that you hear in these episodes. Kaley was awesome and like went back in and re-recorded a handful of episodes like in their entirety after we had kind of had discussions about tweaking it based on the sort of first passes of everything. And so it was a real process, but to her credit, she was open to anything and was just always such a team player, and she's just like the perfect collaborator. We met her on Harley, and now we just want to work with her forever. So it was just, I guess the short answer is just that, it was sort of serendipity. She came to us, and then, we all worked together over the course of probably, a year to really figure out, how we were going to tackle Harley.
Yeah, we have time for one more question.
I'm sorry?
One more question.
Okay. So I pretty much just want to ask you guys, like, I've loved talking to the both of you, talking about, Harley, Joker, everything about that. Just, as we're looking forward to the second season, I mean, what can fans expect? Because you guys already just blew things like, over the roof and all that. It was just like so epic. That finale was incredible. I mean, what can fans expect?
Well, definitely I think definitely we delve into romantic possibilities for our characters. Specifically, I think we get into what Harley and Ivy together might look like, and the problems that come about with them. So I think for everybody who has yelled at us on Twitter about why Harley and Ivy aren't together, we start to look into it. We do more than look into it. So I think that's a big thrust of the second season.
Awesome. Yeah, that is so cool. And, really quick before you guys got to hop off, let everyone know what is the premiere date for Harley Quinn Season 2 for them to just enjoy on DC Universe. Yeah, I lost you there? Oh, sorry.
Sorry, no, you got me. Sorry. The 3rd, which is a Friday, and the episodes come out at, I think, 9 a.m. every Friday Eastern Time, and they'll run for 13 Fridays in a row. And then hopefully everyone will yell at DC Universe and Warner Media and tell them they want a 3rd season.
Absolutely. I already want a 3rd season. But Patrick, Justin, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and speak with us. I'm super excited. I was already a fan of Season 1, and now that you're telling me that Harley and Ivy, we explore that in Season 2, I'm pumped. So thank you so much, guys.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thanks for being so into it.
Absolutely. And Juwan, thank you so much for being my co-host for this interview. It's been a blast. And everyone who's out there listening, make sure you check us out on geek5nation.com. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, everywhere and anywhere that you can imagine. So everyone, until next time, have a good night.